Hi, it's Raphael the Realtor. So I wanted to talk a little bit about contracts this video. When it comes to real estate, one of the most important things that's going to happen during your transaction and when you're working with a real estate agent is the contracts and getting the contracts right. Over here, I have what I call my real estate contract binder. So this is over 250 pages of real estate contracts and information that go into a single transaction. When you work with a real estate agent, when you're working with a transaction, you know that contracts are going to be the most important thing, and that's how you protect yourself. For example, I have a client whose house I was selling in Upland, and we had an issue. I'm not going to go into details. I don't want to put their personal information out there, but we had a deal where we needed to have a repair done. My client agreed to pay for the repair. When they gave me the invoice, I wrote the invoice number, I wrote the date, I wrote the time, I wrote the price, and I wrote my clients were willing to pay only the price that was on that invoice. And the other agent that I was working with said, you don't really need to do all of that stuff, just say you're gonna pay the thing and that'd be fine. And I was like, well, I took some law classes, so I kind of have an idea about contracts and I prefer to do things this way because it's easier for everyone. And she said, fine, let's keep going. And so we went on. Sure enough, after we closed the deal, a month later, the agent came back to me and said, hey, you know what? The bill wasn't fully paid off. This was the amount. At that point, I told my client first, like, the agent is saying this to me. And he said, what do we do? What happens next? And I said, well, remember in the contract when I wrote all that stuff that the other agent called unnecessary? Well, all that stuff in contract legally binds them and says that we only have to pay this certain amount and everything else is none of our concern. Sure enough, we took care of it. I sent it to the other agent. The other agent still was requesting a payment, and I told them, hey, look at the contract, look at page 2, look at what we wrote there, look at what my client and your client signed and agreed to. It's just like there's a set price. We said that's what we're going to pay. You agreed to that, and we did pay that. We met our end. So now everything is left to you and your clients. And so when the agent saw that, she realized that there was no option for her. There was no wiggle room. There was no escape. And she had to go back and tell her clients that they owed them extra $400 or $500 out of the blue. And so as a client, that's something you definitely don't want. You don't want to be put in the position where your agent didn't cover something and you're left with a bill of $500 because, that's a car payment. That's almost half of your rent if you're renting, or, a quarter of your mortgage in some cases. So I wanted to emphasize that when you get a contract, when you're dealing with an agent, you want someone who understands the contracts. So for me, my history is with those, the binder here I showed you. The reason I have this is if you work with me, I'm a digital agent. I know my clients are busy, you're at work, you're elsewhere. You don't really have time to deal with papers. I can give you papers if you want them, but we mostly do things digitally. But I do go to a real estate class twice a year because 2 times a year they update our contracts. Sometimes they add new contracts, sometimes they update old contracts, but the bottom line is the contracts are ever changing. And twice a year, I go to this class, they give me a binder, and I sit there for 8 weeks going over all the contracts from beginning to end, all over again, everything, even the stuff I already know, because I want to make sure that I stay up to date. I know all the little changes that are happening in the contract world so I can better protect you as my clients. Also, because I used to be a teacher, I understand that you may not be a lawyer, you may not be a real estate agent, you may not be that clear, and it may not be that easy for you to understand a lot of the legal words that they use in a contract. So I make a point of learning this stuff, and with my teaching background, I'm able to explain it to you in a simple and easy to understand way that gives you the confidence when you're signing on the line that you know what you're signing and you know how you're protecting yourself. And I can advise you on what the meanings of each of the contract points are so that you can make a solid decision based on knowledge, not based on fear or based on a lack of knowledge. All right, so that's all I want to say about contracts. If you have any questions, definitely reach out. And like I always say, you may not be the best at everything, but you can choose to work with the best agent who gives you great information for free. All right, have a good one. Bye-bye.